I'm Amanda, and this is Not Your Granny's Quilt Show. On today's episode, I have Kristina Trogdon. She is the creative brain behind A Painted Life, or I guess you'd see it as Peinte Co. It's the French spelling, feminine spelling of paint. She is working on designing her own fabric lines after receiving some no's from bigger companies or telling her there wasn't space for her designs. She decided to take a trek on her own and get her fabric made in her own way. So we talk a lot about that. We talk about kind of the grit it takes to be in the business world and creative spaces at the same time. And it's just an overall great conversation. So I hope you guys enjoy Kristina. I'm so excited to hear about what you've got going on. But before we talk about your current endeavors, I want to go back and talk about how you got into textiles and fabric and quilting and all that.
Yeah, so actually my background is fashion design and development. So that's really where I started my career about 10 years ago now. I actually have a kinesiology degree before that, was very unhappy and was like, I need to do something more creative. Somebody had asked me one day, well, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I was like, I really just want to make my own clothes. So I ended up just pursuing a fashion degree, got that. So did a rushed degree, if you will. And then my first job out of school was actually for a Western wear company. And if you have any familiarity with Western wear, it's literally 80-90% men's woven printed shirts. And that was really where I learned how to do prints, was through a Western wear company. So we did a lot of paisleys and florals and geos, and that was really what kickstarted it. And then I started working with other companies, and they would pay other people to do the conversions or to develop the prints. And I was like, well, why can't we just do it in-house? I was like, I know how to do it. And fast forward down the road, one of my coworkers at the time started working for Craftsy, and he came to me and was like, hey, I remember that you really liked prints. It's a quilting company. We're selling fabric. You might be a really great asset. You know prints really, really well. And I was like, yes. So I applied for the job, and it was just sort of like, it just like a key in a keyhole. It just fit perfectly. I felt like I had just found my niche. And my very first collection was called Gloriana's Dream. And it was a very traditional Jacobean style French floral. So a lot of vintage prints that we had converted and then recolored. I created some. And I remember sitting on the floor, and I had hundreds of printouts of all the possible print color options. And I remember sitting on the floor being like, what have I done? Like, this is crazy. How do I put this all together? And
you're like, make them all.
Yeah, it was like a little puzzle. And I was like, okay, how do I solve this? How do I crack this little Rubik's Cube? And I just sat there for a couple hours, just kind of putting everything together. And that was when it really started to see like, oh, I understand why we need large, medium, small, geos, all these other elements. And it really started to come together. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it just felt perfect. It was like, again, I had found my niche, the place that I feel like I was supposed to be, and just sort of ran with it. And so I worked for Craftsy all the way until they closed the e-commerce business in 2020. And then I found another quilting company that I was working with, and he wanted to develop fabric. Ultimately veered away from it, so didn't continue on with him. And I said, I've got to find a way to stay in this business, because this is really my passion, my dream, my bliss. It's like that place where, where time just doesn't even exist. You can do it all day. It's the thing that gives you energy. It doesn't suck you dry, both on the computer and sewing. And that's how I fell into this venture, really as an opportunity to say like, okay, no one will hire me, so I got to find my own way.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. So you've just kind of come from like the physical aspect of like the human body to like now you're doing surface design and working with textiles. That's so crazy. And it's so cool though that like, and I think I've probably said it on here a million times before, but I'm such a hard advocate for people. Like, if you're not happy with what you're doing, then go find something else. Like, our life is too short to be in like a miserable job or like not feel like you've found the thing that makes you light up. And so if you have the means and the ability, then like just try something new. I'm same boat. I was a teacher and now
Yeah.
I'm doing this and quilting full time. And it's like I never in a million years thought that this would be what I was doing with my time, you know?
It's funny. I've been doing a lot of this soul searching. It's funny when you start to research business and just understand like what does it take to be successful in business?
Mhm.
And a lot of what they say is it's an internal job.
Yeah.
And one of the quotes, I don't even remember who said this. I think his name is Robert Brault, but he's like, we don't achieve our goals not because of obstacles, but because of clearer paths to lesser goals. And so it's like you have to just get clarity over what that is and then be
Yeah.
committed to it. And that's, I think what this is the first thing in my life that I felt fully committed to, even more, I set out to be in fashion and I wanted to,
Mhm.
do clothes and apparel. And it's
Yeah.
actually really funny. My portfolio had no prints. I hated prints in school. I was like, get these away. This is horrible. And then of course, the thing you hate is the place where you just fall down the slide and you're like, oh, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just never know where opportunity is going to take you. And it just, I can't believe how clear it is, right? Like I
Mhm.
just have such clarity over this is like, again, my goal, my dream, my passion,
Yeah.
just fully committed to whatever it takes.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And I love that you found that for yourself because a lot of people don't. And um, so yeah, I guess that leads us into, where you're at now and like, you dabbled in surface design with other companies, but now you are working on your own and trying to, make it on your own instead of working with a bigger company or, like what has that process been like?
A lot of no's. I guess honestly, I would have been perfectly content licensing to say Moda or Free Spirit or Marcus or Northcott, Wyndham, pick one. I would have been perfectly content. And I just kept getting a lot of like, we have too many florals. There's too many designers. We're not accepting new designers,
Mm,
just really saturated with the existing portfolio of designers that are out there. And there's so many amazing creators out there that I can't even, fault that. And it's a huge business, right?
mhm,
But what I realized as I just kept getting shot down with all these no's of like, sorry, it's really pretty. We really like it. I love the colors. I love the palette. Got really great feedback from the creative directors, but ultimately they just said, basically we don't have room for you right now.
mm,
And I kind of took that again in this like deep dive of like, what does it take to make a business happen? And one of the another books that was recommended is this Go for No. And how
mm,
many times can you be told no, 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 no until you get to that yes? And I just sort of took this a little bit differently, but said like, I'm getting told no, 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 no. Maybe this is a sign that I need to say yes to myself. And,
mm,
because the reality is I know how to develop product. Like I've been working in fashion and quilting. I have manufacturer relationships. I have the capabilities of converting, creating, setting up all the digital art files, sending those to overseas vendors. I know how to make comments. I know what the strike off looks like. I know how to, assess the quality, the prints, the colors. I have, a color matching system that I can use at any point in time to
mhm,
make sure that all the colors are coordinating and matching across to communicate to vendors. And I said, I don't need to license if I don't want to. I was like, I just need folks who like my stuff,
mm,
and I said, okay, I think this is a sign. I just need to say yes to myself and realize that I got to push myself outside of my comfort zone and just, do my art, do my creativity, and then just put it out there and see who responds to it. And if the opportunity comes up, I'll go create it and I'll go get it produced and I'll go get it developed. And I think that was what really, generated me doing this on my own outside of another company was again, just too many no's. And then realizing I don't necessarily need a big company to help back me. Because again, I think, everybody's probably different. Everybody has their own background, but a lot of what the big design companies offer, right, is resources. They
Mhm.
can do the development, they have the factory relationships. And I was like, wait, I already have those. Like
Mhm.
I can do this. And so that was again the encouragement you could say that I needed to just realize that I think what I need are quilters, and I need community and just a really good group of people who want a different fabric, and I think that was the other thing too, is I realized it is the same portfolio of designers. You go to a quilt shop, it's going to be the same on any of the online retailers. You go to any local quilt shops, there's going to be crossover, even though they're buying from different folks.
Mhm.
There's crossover. It's all the same portfolio of people. It's all Northcott Wyndham,
Yep.
Robert Kaufman, like go down the line.
Yeah.
And I said, there's got to be room for innovation in this space. And so this is where I'm at. Like, let's see what the market says. Let's let the market guide me a little bit and say, like, is this a need that you guys want? Do you want something different? And I obviously have my own favorite designers that I am a huge fan of and will always be a supporter of. I think us quilters, right? We always fall down the fabric rabbit hole of our favorites, no matter how little
Mhm.
or how much fabric we have, we're always going to get more.
Yep. Yep. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, your response to getting no's, I think, is pretty rare because I think a lot of people hear no and they hit a wall and they're like, I don't know what to do next. And so you taking that and taking a chance on yourself and saying, you know what? I don't need them. Like, and not to, turn it as an arrogant spin, but like I think sometimes we think we need outside sources for a lot of things that we can do ourselves. And I think it can feel scary. Like, I don't know anything. Well, then go learn it.
Mhm.
And so I love that. I love that you turn that around for yourself. And the quilting community is so big and so vast. And there are so many different tastes and likes. And s- you know, I think ultimately there is there's room for more. Like you said, there's the typical portfolio out there of the designers that you see everywhere, and they're great and they are out there for a reason, but it doesn't mean that there can't be more, and it doesn't mean that there can't be a new perspective or a different perspective on design. And I think it is important that as a quilt community we come together and rally behind people who are trying to make little waves here and there to improve the industry and to make a path for more people to get into the process that they love in the whole thing, because not everybody loves every aspect of quilting or working with fabric. So just showing that you can do this yourself. You don't have to have one of these big companies tell you yes. It would maybe give you some clout, I guess, but ultimately, like, people, if what you're doing is genuine, people will see your hustle and the work you've done behind the scenes to bring your design to life. So I love that.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about like these areas where feel like you need help, right? And for me, like a big one with social media, I can't even tell you how terrified I was of social media. And I have a friend and I would sit and chat with her and I'm like, Rose, I can't do it. I was like, I'm scared. I don't like it. It scares me. And she's like,
Yeah.
she's like, you'd be amazed at some of the stuff that's out there and is doing well. She's like, you just do it and just try. And so I just
Mhm.
started, like you said, just putting yourself out there. I really wanted to pay somebody to do it because
You're
I was
like, you do
terrified.
it.
I was like, I don't want to be on social media. I don't like it. It scares me. The ridicule, the fears around people's like responses.
Mhm.
And it's so funny. I don't know if you ever listen to Brené Brown, but she just cracks me up when she shares her story about doing her TED Talks and then reading the YouTube comments. And she's like, and the YouTube comments ensued.
Yeah.
And she was like, I thought in bed for 3 days.
Yeah.
But it's true though, right? That was what the fear was. And I said,
Mhm.
I gotta just, what, it's okay. I don't need to pay somebody. I can learn it. I
Mhm.
just have to go be brave enough to face the fears and just go be bold and understand that not everybody's gonna like it and it's okay, right? It's not,
Yeah.
you just gotta be honest, authentic, and do your own thing. And
Yeah.
and you can get through it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. And it
the
is
fears are
scary.
definitely a thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It is kind of scary, and like that was one of my reservations when my husband was like, "You should start a podcast." And I was like, "Ugh," and have my face all over the internet and my voice and like what I'm saying. And it was really nerve-wracking for a while. Like it really took me a long
Mhm.
time to get settled in. And but then I'm like, no, it's not about me. It's about giving other people a platform to share their, avenue of creativity. And if I'm making it about myself, then I'm not truly living up to what I intended the podcast to be or what I wanted it to be. And so I think it's that same thing if you present authentically and you are just genuine and true, and your people will find you. And in your instance, like, that's super important to getting your fabric out there.
Yeah.
So um yeah, I think there's always going to be some Debbie Downer who's like doesn't like your stuff, but it's like at the end of the day, is that one person going to put like a halt to your life? Like, if so, then maybe you need to get some therapy, but like,
Yeah,
you
it sounds like
know?
we got some internal work to do,
Yeah,
some,
yeah.
again, overcoming the fears. I know, I
Yeah.
was shocked though too, like, I posted a little thing in a Facebook group, and I was shocked at some of the negative responses that I got, and I was like, "Whoa, this is not what I intended." Um,
Wow.
Basically just asking for requests, like, I was looking for folks to, like, share my fabric with, essentially, is what I was looking to take away, and people were like, "We're not looking for labor sewers, like, this is the thing that causes labor strikes," and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm
What?
so sorry." Like, I had no idea that I had ensued a whole, like, social, like, employment economic issue on this. Like, I was literally looking for folks to share my fabric with. I wanted some nice photos of my fabric and projects because I'm a little overextended with, I have a kind of a day job
Yeah.
that I'm committed to, and I have a 1-year-old son, and
Oh,
he's
baby.
yeah, he's got energy to say the least,
Yeah.
and very strong opinion. So my time frame for the sewing and time for this is it's limited. So I was looking for resources.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I came up with I met some amazing people, like really great. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Those 10 folks, they made up for the 50 that
Right.
I was so but I was shocked that that was what the takeaway was. And it's one of the larger quilting groups. So I guess I can't be like horribly surprised that there's just such a huge range of folks who've had varying experiences, and everybody
Mhm.
likes to have a voice, and
Yeah.
guess I can't be surprised that that's some of the stuff that comes up. But
Yeah.
again, I ultimately though did come away with some really amazing people. And one woman, she flat out just called me on Messenger, and we had a really great conversation. And
Oh,
now I feel like I've made a new like best quilty friend, and that was really special. So even like that one person makes up for the masses that might not be your supporter.
yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's ultimately the takeaway from all of that, is that like you can let that one or two or even 10 voices drag you down, but like think about all of the other people who love you, who want you to, be successful, who are supporting you in the ways that they can, and who keep, keep your name on their lips in the rooms of people that they want to hear about you. And like those are the kind of people you want in your corner. And yeah, they might get some naysayers along the way, but it's another thing, like, okay, they don't like it, but I don't have to listen to them, and I can keep, you know, is what they're saying true about what I'm my intentions? No, okay, then it doesn't matter. And I think that can be a tricky thing too, about putting yourself out there, your products, or just your personality in general. Just like expect some blowback, but also 9 times out of 10, it's a them problem and not a you problem. And maybe they're seeing something about you, or you're saying something about, something that they don't like about themselves. And so they're mad at you for that when it's not your fault, you know?
Yeah, and
And
funny, back to it's an internal job as well. Like, I found myself really having when that happened, I had to do a lot of reflection, like, why am I so upset by this? It's
yeah.
social media, like, I don't know these folks. And
Hmm.
so I had to really, again, take a step back and be like, okay, what's going on here? And like you said, I think I came away with like, okay, these folks obviously have had their own experiences. this
Right.
has probably very little to do with me. Like they're
Mhm.
not committing any time to me,
Yeah.
but they're obviously having their own stuff. And I have
Mhm.
to realize that, like, okay, I get a little too attached to some of these like external validation things. And so I realized, you know what, you got to come back to the internal thing and go back to yourself, right? And say, like, this is not it. It's not for the external validation. Like, we're creating to create something amazing, something new, something different.
Mhm.
Creating is just for the sake of creating, and then in the hopes that we can share it and make it something special and big and unique, and get it out to the world, and hopefully make a life out of it. It is, just the next level of it. But ultimately it starts with, like, it's just for us, right? It's just for
Yeah.
our creation. And so I think I had to come back to that and say, you know what, this is for me, and it's okay. Like, they, again, obviously have probably had their own experiences,
Mhm.
and I'm having mine. And
Right?
so I just got to keep focused on the fact that it's fabric and it's great. And ultimately, I think we all can rally around a great collection.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, just acknowledging that we're all humans and yeah, we all are coming from different walks and different perspectives on life. And so I think that just can be said for everyone, any interaction you're having with anybody, no matter what it is, like be aware that you're not the only person in that exchange and like your life experience. We might have a lot of similarities because as humans, we just do, but there the differences are, our perceptions and there's nuance to it. And so just leaving space for that for people to just like, man, I'm so sorry that you've had such a rough experience, but like I'm here to tell you I'm not attacking you. It's like, yeah, finding the inner peace so deep that people can't rock it is real hard.
Oh my goodness, the internal piece. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, always, again, internal game more than
Mhm.
it is external. Like, I think the external stuff is just it's a reflection of what's going on inside.
Yep,
And
for sure.
it's so
Yeah.
hard to work on the internal.
Yeah, it's worth it though. Like I think I would never have been able to do this if I hadn't like just stopped everything and gone, I need therapy.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it's worth it.
Make the change and try
Mhm.
to take the feedback and just keep going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is another one as well, right? Take the feedback and, grow where you can, and um, use everything as an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Like don't take it personally. Like don't let it hurt your feelings. And maybe it will for a minute, but if you really take your ego out of it and step back from it and go, okay, what are they trying to tell me here?
Mhm.
And again, if it's valid and you're like, wow, okay, I didn't even realize, or that has nothing to do with anything, it's just them, like being able to take the space to step away from that
Yeah.
situation or that aspect of like taking it so personally and letting it hurt you can mean the difference between, yeah, growing or staying stuck. And I want to choose growth every time when I can. And I think
Absolutely.
most of us do. Anyway, all right. So your collection, is it just the one collection so far that you
So
are
I have a couple. One is called Rev, and this is the one that's probably the most quilter friendly. It's what I would probably deem transitional. So it's brighter, bolder colors, but it follows a more traditional methodology in the sense that you get your large, medium, small florals with a mix of geos, blenders, and other elements. So
mhm.
I would say that one, it's pretty bright. So I'm running everything right now through a crowdfunding site called I Fund Women, because um well, I felt like I needed a platform that wasn't just my website, because I needed something that sort of shared, this is a new venture, like this is a test place.
Mhm.
And so I had actually a client in fashion. She was doing something for women's wear in fire resistant garments.
Oh,
And
okay.
she had a lot of success through I Fund Women. And she shared with me her experience. And I said, oh, you know what? That's really great. And so I got some good feedback from her. And they just offer a lot of really great resources for women who are trying to start small businesses. And so I said, I think I'm going to start here. So I have my site, but right now, again, everything's being directed to this I Fund Women site. And
Mhm.
Rev is the one that's on there the most. So I have, fat quarters and half yard bundles, and then like a quilt kit that I am looking to write the pattern for and then have there. And that one is, again, the first thing you'll see. And then I have another collection that I'm calling Irony is the New Doubt. Let's just say it's a throwback to my 90s junior high.
I
And
love it.
yeah, if anybody picks up on it, please let me know, because
I
there's
100% did. I was like, this feels like I'm 12 and I freaking love it.
yeah, I was like, I swear, me and my best friends, we used to like, did you ever watch the movie Now and Then?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. With those
Yes.
girls bicycling around their little towns and like going and creating dramas in the cemeteries. And that was me and my best friends. We
Oh my
literally
gosh.
bicycled around my small town in California, and we just zoomed around listening to No Doubt and Alanis Morissette and singing as
Yes.
loud as we could. Just thinking we were so cool. And
Yes.
our little chokers and our peace signs and our yin and yang necklaces. Like
Yeah.
we thought we were so cool.
Oh my
But
gosh.
that was really what inspired this collection. So, and I will also say too, this collection, it's actually this guy right here. So it's this collection,
Yeah.
but it's it didn't start as a quilt collection, I think, which is what I find it most ironic. So I was doing a fashion portfolio. I was trying to get a job actually after Craftsy had closed. And so I was like, okay, I got to go build the portfolio. I got to start doing new stuff.
Yeah.
And I just, naturally, after having been in the business, prints just really speak to me. And so I pulled together a whole print collection that was, again, designed mostly for apparel. And so the colors were a little bit different, a little more fashion, a little crazier, if you will.
Mhm.
And then at some point, it just sort of morphed. And I was like, wait a second, this would make a really cool quilt. And so I started, and then part of the trend analysis that you do for apparel, you look to anything that you can find, right? And a lot of what translates is home decor.
Mm.
And so similarly, like quilts, right? I would look to what's going on in the home space. So, Chip and Joanna Gaines, love you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you for all your inspiration.
Love you.
Yeah, actually, who else? Erin and Ben. I tell
Ye-
you, if I love her, she is like, I'm like, she's my jam. Just
Yeah.
her colors, and she's like with her artistry. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, Erin, here's a quilt. Put it in one of your houses.
Yeah.
But she again, it just sort of morphed into this like what's going on in home decor trends. And so I started looking a lot to Urban Outfitters, Free People, and Anthropology, which is crazy to me that they're all owned by the same people. Like it's the same company.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all the same people. But a
Mm.
lot of that 90s stuff, it was so prevalent. And I was like, whoa, this would make a really cool collection. I want this on my bed. And I
Yeah.
think that's really how it started to morph into this. Like I started to extract it outside of the clothes, and I started to see like, okay, how do I make this a little more like home decor? And that was how it sort of evolved. And so originally Rev, the more quilty collection, was I was so passionate about that one. That one, I literally got out my paints, I painted, I stenciled. It was inspired by a trip to Morocco. It was very personal and very quilt oriented. And so like, I love it. I'm so proud of it. And yet
Yeah.
I just sort of fell down the rabbit hole of this guy. And now I'm
Yeah.
like, it's so funky and I love it. So I'm going to say this is the one I'm most curious about, because it
Mhm.
is really different. And when I got my first little production run of it from the mill in Korea, I was so happy with it. And I just was like, okay, we're running with this guy.
Yeah.
But to circle back to your question of like, the collections. So I have the Real Quilter Rev collection. That's the one that you'll see the most options for right now. And then I have Rev in two different colorways. So I have this sort of blue, this baby blue, pink, black. And then I have the like a purple, navy, yellow kind of colorway as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I just haven't gotten around to sewing anything in this one yet, because it's yeah, again, my time is just, even getting this bad boy done was a labor of love, let me tell you. You
Yeah.
got your 1-year-old screaming on your leg and he's crying and you're holding him trying to like sew through the thing.
You're like,
And
this is fine.
yeah, or like he's got his little water cup and he just decides to dump it on the quilt. And I'm like, well, at least it's water.
Yeah, you're like, thankfully that will
Yeah, I was
dry.
like, I'm not doing anything else other than water while the
Oh my
quilts are
gosh.
on. But yeah, so yeah, these are the two collections that I'm really running as a test. So again, more traditional option for the more traditional quilt approach, and then just something totally out of the box that I feel like is I'm trying to compare it to anybody that's out there, and I just can't. I think
Yeah.
there's some elements of Anna Maria Horner with like the animal prints and stuff like that,
Mhm.
but her colors are so bright and vibrant, and it's a little darker. And
Yeah.
this one again reminds me of my junior high childhood, just bicycling around on a nice sunny day, eating ice cream.
Yeah.
And no
No,
doubt.
it's very nostalgic feeling, and I think for those of us millennial quilters, like, it's gonna strike a chord, and so, like, I'm super glad that I'm getting you on here so people can see it because literally the moment I saw it, I was like, "Oh my god."
Oh,
Like
that's so great. Yeah, some people again, I just don't know how. I just didn't know. I was like, you know what, I
yeah.
love it, but
Yeah.
and actually Amanda was somebody that I first shared this with. I had like a couple of these little swatches and I was like, Amanda, what do you think about this? I was
Mhm.
like, is this something that people want? And she's like, it's not very quilty. And she's like, it's very white. However, she's like, there's gotta be a place for it. She's like,
Yeah.
there's a place for everything. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna take your word for it. And so we just sort of took a chance on it. And
Yeah.
again, I'm just so happy with how the actual project came out. I'm like, I gotta throw some more projects because I think it just really brings it to life.
Mhm.
And I've
Yeah.
sent some fabric out to some folks. Again, this group that I put it out there was like, hey, anybody want to sew? And essentially they were like negative response. But again, group of really great folks came out of it. So I've sent some stuff to them and they've been so great in sharing back with me some stuff. So I'm hoping to see what'll come back in this particular collection. So I
Yeah.
and got some stuff out there in the wild, and hopefully it comes back and we get some good stuff. So
Yeah. That'll be so fun, and it's
yeah.
like, as, having tested patterns and worked kind of in that space a little bit, it is so fun to see like people's different ideas. And so I'm sure, using the same collection, even just different projects can really just showcase different aspects of the line and like,
Oh,
other people's kind of perceptions of what it could be or mean for with different spaces or
yeah.
different intentions. And so I love that people were willing to help you out because I think, you know, I sure labor, whatever, but you're not asking for mass produced stuff.
Mm-mm.
It's a one off, like, hey, can you just help me get some different projects to post out there? And like, I
And it
think
was
it
such
ultimately
a fabric.
helps the whole community. Yeah, it's just,
And
it
I was
gives
like,
some
here,
fabric.
just take the fabric. And I was actually, to your point, I was so shocked at what people made with it. So I sent out Rev, which is it's a bright pink, blues, greens, and it was really designed for quilts in my
Mhm.
head. And everybody came back with bags. Everybody
Oh,
made bags with it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. I think I got one quilt. And then another one made a pillow with it, traditional quilt piecing, but
yeah.
I was shocked at the amount of bags and pouches that people wanted to make with it. And I was like, oh, that looks fabulous. Never where I would have gone with it, but it looks great. So that was a fun surprise to see. Again, just people's vision for your stuff is so unique and special. And it, again, just part of the joy that comes back out of this is like, what are people's visions for this stuff? Because mine are obviously my own, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the project, right? Like I can
Mhm.
stare at a fat bundle and ogle it all day long, like a good fabric junkie, but
Yeah.
but again, really, ultimately, you're buying it to make something, right? So the finished
Mhm.
project is really what is most meaningful. And again, just seeing people's creativity is just so inspiring. And again, it's like I can't keep up with all the enthusiasm of like what people are making. And I just again so grateful for folks that were willing to make some fun stuff and it again look amazing.
Yeah.
So unexpected.
Yeah. That's awesome. And yeah, finding those people, finding your community and your group is like so important in all of this too. So I'm super glad that they were willing to rally behind you and be like,
Oh,
heck yeah, I'll help you out and
yeah.
give you some really fun inspiration and help
Yeah.
kind of guide your thinking, and as far as like, okay, what are people making? It's more of that trend analysis, right? Where like, what are people making with
Yeah.
fabric right now? And I
Yeah.
do see a lot of bags as well. And I think, obviously quilts are being made and it's great. And I just think sometimes like, at least for me, my experience is like I love quilting. I love making quilts. I do it every day. But I think
Yeah.
sometimes that's like, I do this every day. Like I need to branch out. I want to try other things. And so still using my favorite fabrics, it's like, well, what can I make out of this? Like, oh,
Yeah.
this I found, the super easy tutorial to make a little zippy pouch. And so my mom and I were busting a bunch out like kind of through the holidays, and because we could make them easier, but we were still using our favorite fabrics and sharing them with people, like using them as gift bags. And
Yeah, that's great. I love that. That's
yeah, so it was like just a fun little side venture to like still using the fabric we love, still working with it, but just trying a different avenue of working with that fabric. And so I love that people came back with so many different projects for you, because I think that is kind of a trend, is more of like make your own clothing, make your own
right.
bags, make your own, it's like people are getting more into that more DIY side of sewing, and not just quilting, which is great because quilting is great, but like you can only do so much with 55 quilts.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can attest to
Well,
that.
and quilts they're a commitment, right?
Mhm.
They take so much time and energy, and you can make a pouch, you can make even a bag, you can do it in an afternoon versus
Yep.
an entire quilt top. Like, I mean, I think I probably could have done this quilt in a day. It's decently easy, like some strip piecing and then big blocks, because I realized I really love to look at the print, so the bigger the piecing, and then makes the project go faster. But
Yeah.
it's still a labor of love, right? Like you still have to like put in the time to like sew the quilt top, like do the
Mhm.
sandwiching and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
again, I think you could do a bag in a much shorter amount of time, and even a skirt and dress, I feel like you can actually make in a decent amount of time if you have experience with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's, again, so many opportunities.
Yeah. It's really cool. But and I think too that just again, you're creating something, you're putting out, fabric, and that's your end of the design. And then what people do with it just like makes it even more special. So just seeing like their creativity that was inspired by your creativity, I
Yeah.
think just makes the magic happen. And that's where the magic in this community is people just, they get like, we're all inspiring each other. It's like an inspiration spiral.
And honestly, that is what I love about this community so much more than, say, fashion. Like when I kind of really found myself, I was like, these are just different kinds of customers. Like they're so
Mhm.
much more invested. And that just felt so much more meaningful than doing, fashion that, as much as I love a good activewear outfit, like I don't know the creators of it. Like they're not connected to me in any way. Like I'm connected to the brand, but again, and it doesn't live forever. And it's another pair of leggings. Like
Right.
you can only go with so many. But like the quilting community, they're invested and they're
Mhm.
sharing. We're connected in a much more meaningful way. And again, it's very personal. And
Mhm.
so I just agree. Like how special is this group of like creators and makers and sewers that we can all like, I can contribute one element and then all these other folks are just inspiring their own creativity with what they see. And then
Yeah.
it circles back and I get to see it, which again, I never, anything that I design in the apparel world, I don't see a whole lot of the folks that are wearing it. I maybe a little bit here and there for like a certain group of ambassadors we get some feedback from, but really it just goes out there into the wild and we never see our customers. Whereas like in the quilting community, again, because there's such a level of investment and commitment to what
Mhm.
you're making, creating, that it's designed to be shared. And so they share it, they tag, they are
Mhm.
committed to being vocal and visual online with their projects. And it's just, again, so meaningful. And it just feels so much more special than, again, just designing another jacket or sweatshirt and just putting it out there and never knowing who's wearing it or what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, yeah, it does feel depersonalized in the fashion, because you're like, I don't know who actually
Mhm.
made this. Like yeah, the brand, but like who was the person who sewed this pair of pants, or who was the person who actually designed this print, or it's like you never know those things. But yeah, like you were saying with fabric, their name is right on the selvage.
Yeah.
You see exactly who designed that and where it came from, and you can tag them online and you can
Mm.
showcase exactly what you're doing with their stuff. And like I try my hardest to always tag the creators of anything, whether it's the pattern, it's the pantograph, it's the fabric, it's a lot of times we're making like memory quilts, or like I
Mm.
just recently, I think it just posted this morning, but um I made a quilt of little rainbow blocks out of the swaddle, like the daughter's swaddles. And so the mom just like wanted her to have a little quilt of all her favorite swaddles from when she was tiny. And
Mm.
so that got, made. And so there's not always like, a source fabric or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's just fun to see, like, and then those people who you admire and get inspired by, when they like your post about their stuff,
Yes.
it's like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh, Victoria Finley Wolf liked and commented on one of my posts from Instagram, from
Oh
the
my
Instagram
gosh.
Quilt Fest, and I was like, Victoria Finley Wolf. She liked my post. It was really funny. It was actually my very first quilt. It was, I think that was the prompt, your first quilt. And
Yeah.
it was this old fabric from like, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
She was like, I think I used that same fabric. And I was so astounded that she saw it, liked it, and commented. And I was just so touched. And again, like you said,
Yeah.
it's so meaningful when the people we're inspired by are seeing our stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
fell out of my chair when I saw.
I know. I think, oh, we had done the Pretty Birds by Elizabeth Hartman for a client, and we used Speckle, one of the Speckle prints, as the backing.
Love this.
And of course, I tagged Rashida because I'm like, this is her stuff and I'm obsessed. And she liked it. And I was like, oh my God, I like screenshotted it, circled it, and sent it to my besties because they also quilt. And like, they were like, oh my God. Like, we were just like jumping up and down, freaking out, like probably on the inside, but because we were all at work. But it's just like that just little bit of recognition that they saw it and they liked it. And even if they don't leave a comment, it's still, you saw, like, you've inspired me so much and you saw it and liked it. Just that little bit is just, I know it's external validation, but at the same time, it's like just that little kind of like cherry on the top of like the already delicious dessert, that like you made this really cool project, but then the person who is behind some of that likes it. You're like, okay.
And,
Okay.
and it's so special, like full circle, right? Like it comes back
Mhm.
around. Like,
Yeah.
you had appreciation for her. She's now having appreciation for you. And it just, again, was so meaningful and just, again, such a different kind of community. I think I went to a quilt festival for the first time a couple years ago. I think 2019, yeah, right before all the COVID pandemic
All the fun
shenanigans.
stuff.
But that was the first time I had really connected with so many quilters. And I just remember walking away being so astounded with their enthusiasm and their like encouragement. There was one woman, I wish I just had a connection to her. She was so sweet. Her name was Lori. That's all I remember. I have a little picture of her and I look at it and she was so encouraging, but she was like, you designed the fabrics? And I was like, yes, I designed the fabrics. And I was like, my name's not on it because I work for another company, but I was like, yeah, I did. And she was like, oh, that's amazing. Will you sign a Harm Square? And
Oh my gosh.
I was like, okay, like, and she came back later on the last day and she was like, just don't ever give up. You're incredibly talented. Like you have what it takes to stay in this industry. Like, don't give up. And she was just, and I
Mm.
literally still have her little card. And whenever I feel like, you know, 'cause as you're pushing forward for these goals and these dreams, you get beaten down sometimes and you kind of
Mhm.
lose a little bit of your like hope and stamina for it to just keep persevering. Like it gets hard. And
Yeah.
I just think about her every time and I'm like, you know what? She's right. It's okay. Like this is what I meant to do. And it's okay to feel a little down. And I'm gonna keep going. People like Lori are there to support you and help lift you up. And I was like, okay. I
Yeah.
wish more than anything, she knew how much that meant to me. Cause
Yeah.
just yeah, she was just so special, and it just is so meaningful, right? When
Yeah, it's like when somebody just, like, sees you like that, it's like nothing else in this world. It's so incredible. It feels fantastic because 'cause you're like, um, I think we just all want everybody to see how hard we're all trying, like, and maybe that's just, like, a Capricorn thing, like, I just want you to see how damn hard I'm trying to be the best version of myself, like, and
yeah.
so when people can just look at you and see that and they acknowledge it, you're just like, "Oh, thank you." Like, it
Yeah, and this was, like, well before I had actually, like, started my own thing, like, I was still employed with Craftsy at the time, and she just really brought me so much encouragement, and again, it
oh,
was so meaningful.
yeah, I love that, and, like, maybe hopefully, somehow you can find her because
I
that's
I put it out on Instagram Quilt Fest in the hopes that maybe somebody would know Lori, and nothing's come back yet,
oh,
but
dang.
it's my hope that somehow full circle come back around and
Yeah,
she'll find me again.
I hope so. I hope you guys find each other again because
Yeah,
that's magic. It's so good when that happens and just to feel seen, and I think really ultimately, like, that's what we want as humans is to feel seen and heard and, like, yeah. So, that's incredible. I'm so happy that you had that because it's like, yeah, that little kernel you can hang on to
yes,
when shit
exactly.
hits the fan or when things are hard, you can just be like, "Well, Lori loves me."
Yeah.
Like
And again, it's just that constant like reminder, right? When you just feel like you don't have much else and you're like not making the traction, you're not making the headway,
Mhm.
you're not getting the likes, the follows, the sales, you
Right,
just feel like you're like, what am I doing? Like, I should just go back to my day job that makes me miserable. Like,
right.
and you're like, you know what? No, there's folks out there that need what you're doing. Like, everybody
Mhm.
needs each other. And it's just always, yeah, that is my little gem that I hold on to whenever I get real discouraged.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited, and I am so excited to be able to share this with all my listeners and followers, and hopefully, your fabric resonates with some of them and that they'll go help donate to your crowdfunding,
Yeah.
efforts. And
Yeah,
so
so I
we'll
will say it's pre-sales essentially is how it works. So like
okay.
there are like it's kind of weird, right? It's a pre-sale platform, but they call them rewards.
Okay.
But essentially the idea is that no matter what gets purchased through the site, everything will be fulfilled because the minimum
Okay.
I don't have. So have you ever like with Kickstarter, they have sort of an all or none platform where if
Oh,
you
okay.
don't hit your goals, nothing gets funded and everybody gets refunded their money back.
Okay.
But I Fund Women is different where they'll just essentially they allow you to keep what you earn. And I felt confident with this again because I'll be able to deliver no matter what, which I think is really important for
Yeah.
everyone to understand. Because I know sometimes crowdfunding and these things can be a little bit like, what's going on? Do I trust it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But like I said, I chose I Fund Women, just they had so many great resources and in terms of helping women who aren't business women,
Mhm.
they're the creators, they're the makers, they're the idea behind the thing.
Yeah.
And they offer some of those tactical resources. And I said, that's really what I need because I'm the maker. And
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's the I Fund Women platform is where I'm doing all my pre-sales right now.
Okay. Well, that's good to know because I think, yeah, like you said, sometimes people are like, ugh, but what if I do this? I'm anticipating getting this product and then it doesn't happen. So it's good to know that like as much as you pre-sale or earn,
Mhm.
the like everybody will get what they
Yeah.
pre-order.
And
So
I think there you'll if anyone ever does go to the site, there is essentially like a target cost that I'm looking to hit, but that's really just a target to tell me, is this a viable business? So
sure.
that's really that number. Like if I hit that number, then I know without a doubt, like, okay, we have a business. And so
Right.
that's really what that means. And
Okay.
there's a whole frequently asked questions section where I tried to answer as much as I could in terms of concerns. Again, like, will my stuff be delivered? Is this a reputable site? Is my payment secure? Like,
Yeah.
how do I know the quality is good? Things like that. So
Mhm.
any concerns is I really tried to address them there. However, if anybody goes and they like, my question is not answered, please let me know and I will address it. Just let me know what that question is.
Yeah. That's
Again,
good to
and
know.
Yeah, and if you get a chance to sort of see and have questions, please filter them back to me because I'll make sure to address them.
Yeah.
Again, I did the best I could trying to
Yeah.
get it all on my own, but feedback is important. And if I've missed any points of concern, I'd love to be able to address them.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't know what questions there will be before they're asked. And then you're like, oh, that's actually a really good question. I didn't think of that. Like, so yeah, I think, and I love that, you're out there, you're trying to put people's mind at ease by answering questions or, posing those like scenarios of like, this might be a concern, but here's how this is dealt with. And so I think that can give people, peace of mind about it too. So,
Yeah.
um, and then tell me how you say the name.
Yeah. Okay. I will tell you right now, my husband, he's like, are you sure you want to do this one? It's literally, I would just say like paint. It's literally French for painted. And when you do the pronunciation of it, it's like paint.
Paint.
They just say it with a little more like elegance, right?
Yeah.
But it's so funny, just quick little story about it. But
Yeah.
my background, I did a lot of dance and ballet. And so the French really like I just love the language
Hmm.
itself. So that was part of it. And then I went to Morocco and French is one of the secondary languages. And, most of the quilt is French florals. And so
Yeah.
there just sort of kept this reoccurring theme. And then I really wanted something that meant like artistry, creativity, that was colorful. But I was like, okay, I can't call it paint. Like, have you ever tried Googling paint? You're going to get like Home Depot, Sherwin-Williams, like and I was like, okay, that's not the way to go. So I was like, you know what, let's just go with the French. That's how we name collections. Like, might as well just go with the French. And so I chose
Yeah.
from the French lave peinte, which is painted life. And so I
Okay.
was like, it's sort of literal slash metaphorical, like, let's paint our lives a little bit more colorful, like both literally with our quilting and like make our lives a little more interesting. So that was where that came from. And again, a Google search works great. However, pronunciation is a little confusing. So I've been trying to put that out there in terms of like helping just say like, no, just say paint. It's fine.
Paint. So if you're not French, you can just say paint. So Paint
Yeah.
Co. Um, and you have your iFund Women. So I will put that link in the show notes for people to
Thank
just get
you.
to it. You have a great Instagram post that just explaining kind of uh, in a nutshell what we've been talking about today. So I'll actually put a link to that directly
Oh,
to that
thank
post
you.
as well for
Yeah.
people. So if they want to see that, because I think it really dives into your why, like why are you doing this and where are you coming from in you know crowdsourcing your own fabric
Yeah.
line. And um so I love that. And so yeah, I am really excited. So you're on Instagram as a painted life,
Yep.
but the French spelling of painted.
Yes. Yeah. It's sort of, I'm hoping like we can, again, just that we can like it'll start to make sense, right? I kept doing research and I was like, when you start dealing with like a brand name, right? Like Moda, what does that mean to people?
Yeah.
Like I can't even say some of the other ones that are out there. And I was like, people are probably just gonna think it's my last name. That's fine.
Yeah, right. You're like, whatever.
you
No,
know,
and I like it. I think I read um the definition and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And so that made sense. I was like, well, I just wanted to, yeah, make sure I was saying it right. And I think knowing that, oh, it's adding color and paint, that
yeah.
art aspect of it is okay. Yeah, this all makes sense. So,
Yeah, I was kind of trying to again just do this twofold thing. And again, when you start searching for URLs and all this stuff,
mhm.
it just you start feeling like and you start Googling certain things, right? Like you again can take you down the wrong path. And so something that I did learn is that you want something specific and unique to your company or brand. And I was like, okay, it's spelled a little weird, but I think people will get it eventually.
Yeah, and that's what stands out about it is it's like, oh, that's a different spelling. And it kind of intrigues people. At least it intrigued me to be like, who is this? Like, what is this? What is
It,
this? Like,
in some ways, I'm wishing I might have done the masculine spelling without the E because I keep getting painty.
oh, you're like,
But it would because again, I derived it from that phrase, which is the feminine form. So,
mhm.
and then I was also like, well, then I could do a play on words of like painted. And so
Yeah.
uh, but I think as a standalone, I do get a little bit of the painty, but you know what? It's all right.
It's all right,
Yeah, I'll go with it.
we'll correct people as we go. If we hear it, be like, "That's actually different. It's actually paint."
Yeah, and even some of my friends that have a little French background, she still was like, "Painty?" And I was like,
Bro, it's French.
but, like, again, like you said, like, just something unique, different that will force people to be a little more mindful, right? Because otherwise you just paint and we're painting the walls.
Yeah, we're at Home Depot,
Yeah, precisely.
and that's not where we wanna be to make quilts, I can tell you that. It's dirty in there.
I have grabbed paint chips for some color inspiration,
Mhm.
but beyond that, I
Yeah, for sure.
definitely there for the home improvement, not for the quilt inspiration.
Yeah. Fun fact, I worked at our local Home Depot for 6 weeks before I got my teaching job, so that
Oh,
was
did
cool.
you?
Yeah. And, like, we've done various home improvement projects and stuff, so there's been some summers where we just basically are there every single day, and it's a great place, but not yeah, like you said, not for quilting.
Yeah.
Sometimes the tiles, like, the floor tiles or stuff that they sell, I'm like, "That would be such an amazing quilt." And then it's like, I'll kinda look for whatever the name is, and I kinda end up finding quilt designs that are similar, and I'm like, "Oh, somebody already was on top of it."
No, funny story. I went to Morocco and France and I took more pictures of tiles and wood grain and literally all the stuff that I can make prints and quilts out of.
Yeah.
I look back and it's literally all like it's like the table or like a real close up of some, funky floor tile. And I was like, oh, these are
Yeah.
some amazing quilts. Actually, everything that I did for Rev was inspired by a tile of flooring of
Mhm.
place that we went to.
That's
'Cause
amazing.
they make the best.
It's gorgeous, and, like, same thing, my husband and I were in Spain this last summer for a couple weeks, and everywhere we went, because they're so heavily influenced by the Moorish, architecture and design, and it's just there's beautiful tiling everywhere and just all these gorgeous things, and so I was taking all these pictures. We were in Casa Batlio, and, it's a Gaudi, like, home that he had redone for this, like, fancy family, but just the floor tiles and the way that he, like, made the rooms round and smooth and, like, all the wood accents are just I was taking all these pictures of just, like, all the different little design elements everywhere, and I was
Yeah.
like, "I'm not sad though, because those are the things that, like, caught my attention and made me feel so emotional," like yeah, if somehow, like, someone or if I can eventually turn that into some, like, living piece of art that can be in my home or on my walls, then, it's still there for me, and
Yeah. The
I love
inspiration is priceless, right? Like, just
yeah,
feel inspired and create something new and different at some point yeah,
yeah,
take that with you for sure.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Christina, for being on the show with me today. I'm so happy to give you this space to talk about your endeavors, and I'm really hoping that this helps you find more of your community to help boost your fabric production. And again, I'll put all the links to everywhere, to your website, to your Instagram, to the I Fund Women platform. So if people want to make their pre-order, they can do that, and we'll just get your name out there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your generosity and just sharing the space. It's again so meaningful. You just put it out there. You're not really quite sure what to do with next steps. So it's folks like yourself that are really helping to like bring it to life. And again, just so meaningful. So I'm incredibly grateful
Yeah.
for you and Amanda
Yeah.
for being willing to share with me her connections as well. Like Amanda's
Yeah.
gem. She's going to do some of my tech editing for my patterns and things like that. So we're like, yeah,
Nice.
it's sort of my little, we're try to cheer each other on and keep each other going. So
Yeah. Shout out Amanda Bauer, Ailey Be
yeah,
Creative. She's great. Her patterns are gorgeous. And I know she's going to be a huge help and resource for you. So that's awesome that you have that. And
yeah,
I'm glad she led you to me so that we could do
yes.
this. So
Again,
awesome.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate your time so much.
Yeah. Thanks. And have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too as well.